Assalamu alaikum. Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Dear students, welcome to lecture number 17. Today we will discuss infra-specific groups. Outlines of today's lecture are: we will discuss infra-specific groups like Deem, variety, Cline, race, group or complexes, section, series, divisions, etc. with examples. Lecture outcomes are: after watching and listening to this lecture, student will know about that what is Deem, what is variety, Cline, race, group or complex, section or series, and division, etc. So we will start with Deem. Before going into the detail of this whole lecture, just keep in mind one thing, that all the categories we are discussing today, these are not formally accepted categories in zoological taxonomy. These were just words, or these were terminologies used either as a substitute for subspecies, or these were used before the introduction of the terminology or the properly accepted formal category subspecies, which is an accepted category in Linnean hierarchy. So these all were most of the time used as substitute for the subspecies. So Deem is actually a morphologically homogeneous group of organisms which are either from a single locality or from a single kind of habitat, and it is always a starting point in all kinds of classification, because we start classification from this region. Always we start classification with Deem or with morphologically homogeneous groups, those organisms which are morphologically similar and they are living in a single locality, they are sharing the same resources, they are living in a single habitat. So always it's a starting point. We always start classification with this point. So Deem is always you can say a starting point in all classification. Now it is used to represent a subpopulation within a population. It's considered that on a large geography, a very huge or large population is living. But that residing population on a huge geography, the whole population is dispersed over the huge geography. But if we consider a very small subpopulation of that huge population, you can say there's a Deem. So Deem, by Deem we represent that subpopulation. Or subspecies is also called Deem. As I told you in the start, that these terminologies were most of the time used as substitute for subspecies. But when this subspecies terminology was introduced and it was formally accepted in taxonomic hierarchy, so then there was no need of Deem or variety or the other words. So subspecies is actually called Deem, and where we use this Deem, especially in ecology and population genetics. The term Deem was used by Gilmore and Greger in 1939. So they introduced this word Deem, and it has no nomenclature status in zoological hierarchy. You can define it as it is a group of individual animal of one species or of subspecies so localized that they are in a very easy and more or less frequent contact with each other. So as we discussed in the previous definition, that actually Deem is a subpopulation of a large population, or you can say it's a small portion of a very huge species group, or you can say it's a more localized population of a subspecies. So within a subspecies, a very localized, which are those organisms or those species which are in more or less frequent contact with each other. So we also consider them as a Deem. So the term Deem was adopted by zoologists as an evolutionary unit corresponding to a local population in a subspecies, but not considered as taxonomic category. So it's not a taxonomic category, but it was adopted was just only as a evolutionary unit, which correspond to a local population. So in biology, a Deem is a term for a local population. So for a local population, we use this term Deem of a polytypic species that actively interbreed with one another and share a distinct gene pool. So when Deems are isolated for a very long time, they can become distinct subspecies or species. I mean, for example, if two Deems, if they become isolated for a very long time, so then by accumulation of different characteristics, genetic characteristics, they may become distinct subspecies or it may become a new species. So the term Deem is mainly used in evolutionary biology and is often used as a synonym for population. So it is used for as a synonym for population in population ecology or evolutionary biology. Examples. So like various populations of gorillas can be understood by their geographical separation and have been assisted to determine their different and disorganized gene pool. And another example is the polar bear, the Ursus maritimus, as understood to have like 19 identifiable demes. So this Ursus maritimus, they have 19 identifiable demes, even though their circumpolar distribution allows some interchange among the demes. So these are the two examples, and you can see at the circumpolar distribution definition. So you can say as a circumdistribution is any range of taxon that occurs over a wide range of longitude, but only at high latitudes. Such a range therefore extend all the way around either the North Pole or the South Pole. So at the altitude, at the latitude, and it's at the North Pole or at the South Pole. Then variety, and I think in the previous lecture we have already discussed this in very detail, but let me explain it a bit here also. This term was proposed by Linnaeus and was common use for many years in zoology. It is still used in plant systematic, but it has been the most controversial in abused terminology or term in zoological taxonomy, and it is abandoned. It is not further used in zoology. So under the typological concept, species concept, each species has a fixed pattern. All species have a fixed pattern, and if there is any change or any differences there, so they called it it's a variety. But when evolution was accepted, then this term variety was like abolished, and it didn't become controversial. So this term was used by Linnaeus in its Latin form, Veritas. He and his follower used it for variants in a species or population. As you know, Linnaeus was a follower of like typological species concept. They were not believers of evolution. So the variable form in a population was called variety, which means that anything which was different in a population was called variety at that time. But Darwin, as a father of evolution, he did not recognize, and he failed to recognize variety, as he was believer of evolution. So he was not believer in variety, or he was not believer of fixity of species. So nowadays this term has been abandoned from the zoological nomenclature, and any such name used after 1960 was rejected outright. Then there is a form or morphotype. So these terms are also used for varieties in the second sense, because in a population, if there are different forms or different morphotypes, those were called varieties, or those were also called forms, different forms and different morphotypes. Morph mean shape, and type mean type. So like different in form and the physical appearance. So these two terminologies were also used as like in a second sense for varieties, opposite to variety. So they also have no nomenclature status. There is no nomenclature status of this. Edwards in 1955 defined it as like distinguishable, sympatric, and synchronic interbreeding population of a single species. Then there is Cline. So Cline is also not a taxonomic category, and this Cline was introduced by Huxley in 1939. So for the first time, he introduced this word Cline, the terminology Cline, and it was used for available varieties within a species. So for example, if there are varieties in a population of a species were called Clines, like for example, if you like consider the color of the human beings. So human being is a Homo sapien is a single species, but if you look at their color, like from the white to the like from the white to the black color, and in between the two colors, so this gradual increase toward the white color or from white to black color, this is a series of changes, and the single species, so these are called like Cline. So like variable available varieties within a species is called Cline. So we will discuss in 2 or 3 examples, so it will become clear later on. It is used for a character gradient or gradation and measurable characters. So like it says for character gradient, a character which is gradually decreasing or increasing, and it is measurable character. So that is Cline. A single population may be composed of many different Cline. It has characters. Now, like populations have different characters. Like you can say hair color or hair style, or you can say the skin color or stature, or there are many other characteristics. So these characters gradually vary within the population, and that what it may climb. So formed by a series of continuous population in which a given character changes gradually. So it's a character, we take a character and that character changes gradually, and those populations or this are known as Cline. Example, if in a range of a species of butterfly, for example, the percentage of white specimen vary from north to south. For example, if you start looking at the characteristic of a butterfly within its range, for example, if you start examining them from north to south, and you look at the percentage of the white specimen, so you will look at if the percentage of the white specimen is increasing or if it is decreasing. So Cline may be morphological, so this Cline may be morphological, it may be physical, it may be ecological, or percentage frequency of other characteristics. And another example is of the bitterness of leaves of clover. So now this clover is you can find it all across the Europe. It's like other grasses. Clover is present in the whole Europe, but there is the thing. There is the difference, like in the taste of the Southwest Europe clover and in the taste of the Northeast clover. Now, why this difference is there? Because in the Southwest Europe, the temperature is not that much low, and there are snails which are predators and they feed on this clover. So what happens that in that clover leaves, this clover maybe it's sweat on a gene which produce a better taste, because when you chew those clover leaves, there are certain chemicals which then interact with each other and produce cyanide. So the leaves of the Southwest Europe clover are better, and those of the Northeast clover are not better. Why? Because in the Northeast, the same clover, the same species is there, but there is not better. They do not have better taste. Why? Because there are no snails, because of the temperature. Because of the very low temperature, there are no snails. So there is no need of switching on the genes to become a better one. So the clovers in the Northeast are not better, and the clover on the southwest Europe are have a better taste. Now both are the same species, but one have better leaves and the other don't have. So you can say it's a cline. Uh, for example, if there is no pressure, so there is no evolution. Mean it does need to turn on the genes or turn off the genes to become better or not. Uh, this gradual change in the clover gene is called Cline. Now, Julian Huxley in 1938 defined Cline as an ecoline or Cline consists of ecotypes or forms of species that exhibit gradual phenotypic or genetic differences. So now these differences may be genetic or they may be morphological phenotypic, but they are gradual. Uh, another example is that of plant that is Aquila linulosa. So Euro plant population like in Sierra Nevada, California. So actually the difference in the stature or the size. So if you look at the distribution of this plant from method to living, you will see that the plant, this Euro plant, the Aquila linulosa, is 75 centimeter in height. But if you then go to the Aspen Valley, you will see that the size decrease from 75 to 50 centimeters. Then in to the Yosemite Creek, if you look at the plant, the size is 49 centimeter. Then into Tenia Lake, you can see it's 32 centimeter. And then into the Tuolumne Meadows, the size further decreased to 21 centimeter. Then if you move toward the Bighorn Lake, again the size decreased to 15 centimeters. And then in the Timberline, it has 20 centimeters. Then the Coney Summit is 25. And again in the Leeuwenhoek, there is 43 centimeter plant. So from Sierra Nevada range to the Great Britain Plateau, the size or of this plant, Euro plant, decrease and or increase. So this is a gradual change in the height of this plant and the stature of the plant, and this is what called cline. So these are different clines. So everyone is a different cline, though all of these plants belong to the same population or to the same species Aquila linulosa, but there is difference in their stature, and that's why we call them different clines. So it's a gradual decrease or increase in a certain characteristic. There's Haitian or Haitian annuals. Now, if you look at their developed color, like it's change just gradually. Now, in this one, the color is most prominent, but again in this one, it's like decreases, and there is no color over here. Now, why they develop this color? To attract their mates. So, species also have evolved physical characteristics to obtain resources and slightly different. But now, those resources may be like different resources. Maybe it's like for attracting mates, maybe for obtaining its prey, or many other things are there. So this gradual change in the developed color, it makes them different clines. And another example is that of the approximate geographic distribution of skin color and human aboriginal populations. So when you move from the south to the north pole, and this the values it shows, or the darkness shows the skin color, the change in the skin color. So the values increase with darker skin colors. Now, if you look at this one, 1 to 12, 15 to 17. So now, when this color, when you go from north to the south, you can see this increase in the darker skin color. So these are different clines. Now, race. So the term race was once used as equivalent to subspecies, and therefore in the beginning race was used as interchangeable term for subspecies, and it is still used in botanical nomenclature, but it's not used in zoology. So race is not a taxonomic category. It has no recognition. It has no place in the taxonomic hierarchy. So the race actually depends upon the splitting of species. When species split because of certain changes accumulating in them, so they become different. They will become like different races. Like for example, human have different races, like the Negroes, the Caucasians, the Asians. So the species is primary and the race is secondary. So species is the main, then species will split into races. So every race show the complex specific characteristics common to all races of the same species. So like for example, if a species has 30 or 20 races, so all those races will have some very specific characteristics common to all of these 30 races, which is common to the species from which they belong. Now, it is also true that true subspecies exist in nature, and but the term race is considered as the same name for subspecies, and subspecies is considered in nomenclature, but race is no nomenclature status. So there is no place for the term race in the zoological nomenclature. Then there are group or complexes. So these two terms are neutral and they are used synonymously for each other. Now the term have no taxonomic inclusion, no status. Group and complexes, they don't have any nomenclature status in zoological hierarchy. So they are just used for number of like units. So group is commonly applied to an assemblage of closely related taxa. For example, numerous species group of the genus Drosophila. So now you are like you know Drosophila. Uh, Drosophila have like different groups. The genus Drosophila, for example, Melanogaster group, Virilis group, and Obscura group. So these have like different. This genus Drosophila have different groups, but these have no like status. They are not present in taxonomic hierarchy. We do not use them. It is just used in the common discussion, like we say Obscura group or Melanogaster group, etc. Section, series, and divisions. So these terms are also they don't have any nomenclature status and have no status in taxonomic hierarchy. And these terms are generally used for higher categories, either above or below family, order, or class level. For example, we use the section, term, or division for a family group, or for orders, or for classes, or for phyla, or whatever. And in the end, if you have any question, please ask. These are the references. Thank you so much.